Welcome then, one and all, to WOR. Welcome to World Online Racing. Welcome to Xbox Tier 2 here tonight, here at the Temple of Speed. Welcome to Monza. It is myself, Jota, alongside an old fan favourite, Callum G, the Scottman yourself. Nice to have you aboard alongside me for this event here in Monza. As we just see Silas going a little bit wide through Lesmo 1 and then invalidating Piccolo going fastest. Temple of Speed, all of these drivers got to be impeccably fast round here, Callum. To put it bluntly, of course, this makes the track actually one of rather high aggression.
Yeah, definitely, especially with this Tier 2 grid. It's high aggression, I think it suits it to a T. It's been interesting last few rounds here in this tier, and I think what looked to be quite a runaway championship for PSR Boots is just starting to flip on its head. And as we come to Monza tonight, it's not an easy track to get right. It is certainly not an easy track to win. And in this Tier 2 grid, it should definitely be a very interesting race.
As you see, Silas just coming into the pits and invalidated the last lap and chose to bail and not have another go at that one. We'll have a look at the Haas of Venom. He'll come across the line now and he gets himself into P4 just above Fingerboy in the Williams. 121.1 for him in the soft compound though, so he'll need to find a little bit pace if he can. Let's take a quick look then at that table then as it stands at the moment. Very interesting table to say the least, Callum. So Boots leading the way in the championship at the moment on 85, but a very, very close competition happening between second and as far as maybe P4, 5, 6, where you've got the likes of Noctis, Fern, Scyther, Wexro, maybe even sort of Finn also started to get into the mix as well, of course getting that second place at Austria. This means that the championship's starting to close up a little bit and Tier 2 looking like suddenly to become a little bit of a feisty little championship now.
Yeah, it definitely is, and Tier 2 is no stranger to that. I'm not sure if you're aware, last year we had 3 drivers in the last race of the season all with a chance of winning. I think it was 9 points, so this championship's always very close, and we're starting to see it again. You know, the downfall of the Boots a little bit in terms of the championship. If he keeps that up, it will start to look interesting. The aim race has been done extremely well this year. It was so unlucky in Austria, I think it was, maybe to not win the race. It was so close to not winning it, and I think he got a penalty at the very end which demoted him down a few positions. Noctis, Fern all picking up very good results recently. They're starting to find their form, and drivers like Scyther, I think he's down in P5, but the pace is there. It's maybe just the consistency lacking for him. So if any of these drivers in this top 5, top 6 can start to run a little bit of consistency, get a few results together, they could definitely start to take this championship by the hands.
Well, keep an eye out on that one. We've got 20 drivers all trying to get a grip just on this race alone. Of course, Monza, as we agreed, is a very, very high intense circuit. High octane, expecting high attrition, unfortunately, as well. But Finn going fastest with a 119.8. Here comes Overkill in the Alpine. Then he's just heading around the final corner now as he heads through towards the start finishing line. Now he's going to hope to try and get somewhere into the 1 minute 20s and 19s if he can on the soft tyre, and with the 20.3 puts himself in P5, taking over Smokey, who just followed a lap on the medium tyre, just managing to beat him by 0.04 of a second. Worth making note, of course, this is short qualifying, this is not Q1, so the top 10, they will all start on the tyre that they qualify on, and of course everyone outside of the top 10 will start on any tyre that they wish to choose. A little invalidation there for the PSR driver Louis as he comes a little bit adrift at Ascari. P15 at the moment for the Red Bull.
Yeah, nothing so much to talk about in terms of this session at the moment. Scyther, the man who's quite high up in the standings, not managed to set a lap, going wide there at the exit turn 2, which is quite an unusual place to find yourself in the gravel. But yeah, I think there's still about maybe 10 minutes left. Can't see with that yellow flag sector, but yeah, I'm assuming we'll see the time start to topple down soon. A lot of drivers still on the medium compound tyre with the fastest lap, so when they get the softs on, that's when we'll really get to see the pure pace.
Here's a driver now. We're just following on board Shazoo driver Lurch at the moment on the medium tyre. His last lap was invalid, but he's going hard and he's currently well within the process of setting a lap at the moment. See how he does at Ascari. Goes in. Yeah, not so bad. Maybe a little bit wide, but holds it well as he goes through his Ascari. I say holds it well, nearly spins it. Sorry about that one, Lurch. He heads now towards Parabolica before it comes. You know what? That's just commentator's curse, that, isn't it? You know what? It's not the first time I've done that in this. I've been over 5 years of commentating. We'll see what happens anyway. He comes across into Parabolica, a little bit wide, but tries to get as much as he can. Tucks it back onto the inside line to get the short run to the start-finishing line. Not expecting too much because of that half-spin 121.0 for the Mercedes. Just tucks in behind Noctis in P10.
Yeah, Silas behind was at 29, but unfortunately for his sake, invalidated on board now with the Red Bull. PSR Lewis, I think is probably the better one for that. You're looking out, coming out into the final corner, McLaren gets out his way nicely. and he's coming to the final corner now. Soft tyre, so for his sake, you're probably looking at that top 5 pretty easily, maybe above Overkill's. He'd be fancying to put that a Red Bull. So now, short run at the line here in Monza, no DRS, as it's a bit longer after that finish line, and that is P5, so good guess from me there, and the Red Bull will be happy with a third row at the moment.
No, they're just showing off your experience behind the wheel, really, there, weren't you, Callum? I mean, P5 for him, Louis, managing, or Lewis, or however you want to pronounce it, either way, P5 for the Red Bull. Just tucking in a little bit in front of Overkill, but behind the Shizou Academy driver, rather, Sam in the Haas. We'll keep an eye out on that one, of course, and we'll just keep an eye out on other drivers, because we've still got another 6 drivers yet to set a lap at the moment. One of those, actually, is the AlphaTauri of Wexrow, and this man, PSR Mac. A lot of PSR drivers actually in this race here tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing how they are going to sort of match up, because of course with the teams, of course, some drivers are going to look after each other when it comes to their constructors, but when it comes to the actual teams that they race for, Shizou Finn currently leading the way. Surely he's going to be looking out for the likes of Shizou Sam, of Shizou Piccolo, of Shizou Noctis and Lurch, and then you've got your PSR, Fern, Wexrow, Mac are in the mix as well, alongside Louis, and Boots, of course, the championship leader. So all of that is all going to come into the equation, so keep a firm eye on that one, as we just see the Alfa Romeo of Scyther come across the line. He comes across the line with a 1:19.7, as we keep an eye out on Mac, and he just wants to sort of slow down the pace here. He's got 8 minutes a bit. You don't want to sort of overheat the tyres on his outlap. Let's be perfectly candid on that one. Plenty of drivers still out on the field at the moment, as we're just keeping an eye out on Smokey on an outlap as he just comes across the line now. I think this is probably going to be the second run of laps for these drivers. But a little bit of a surprise at the moment, you'd have to say, for the championship leader, Callum. PSR Boots down in P4 at the moment. Granted, he's only down by 1.5 tenths, but at the moment, a couple of people showing a little bit more pace around him at the Temple of Speed here tonight.
Yeah, definitely. He was actually improving there, but I think he's starting another lap. He just invalidated coming out the exit of Ascari, so you just put him slightly on the back foot, just looking with Shizou Ace, Sam, and our Shizou driver to add to the Shizou kind of clan in this league at the moment. There's thousands of them, it feels like, in this tier alone, just coming through Ascari now. He's just under a 10th up, and that would be putting him nicely, maybe just behind Boots, but he's backed off for whatever reason that was, maybe not the Scary that he wanted, but the Haas driver is backed out of that lap.
Just keeping an eye on the championship leader, then PSR Boots, as he heads now into the second chicane. He'll want to keep it tidy. Oh, he's kept it absolutely crisp and tidy through there as he heads now into the first Lesmo of 2. And he'll keep it close to the curb if he can. Not try to take too much curb. The curbs on this game are horrendous, to put it bluntly. Let's be honest, we've had to deal with it for a whole game cycle. God forbid what we've got with the new upcoming game. Heading now through and towards Ascari underneath the bridge. Green flags waving for a yellow flag just behind. I believe that is for the Williams of Overkill, who's just let him go, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, it wasn't. I'll have to see. Either way, it comes through Ascari then, does the AlphaTauri Honda, and he heads now towards Parabolica. Now, of course, he's going to be wanting to try and keep up the pace here. He's lost a little bit of ground at the front of the championship here, but with new lap times for pole position coming in thick and fast, he might be under some pressure here. Here he comes then across the line. Legend with the 1:19.7, Boots with a 1:19.6.
Yeah, very nice there, very nice lap there from Boots. So just looking at Emirates around P50 at the moment. The man's second in the championship. Qualifying definitely hasn't been their strong point this year, but P15, that is definitely a low one for his standards. He was about 8 tenths up on an improvement on those soft tyres. His Finn goes fastest as well, so the time's coming down thick and fast. And the man who's probably wanting to win this championship fight, Emirates, isn't looking great down there in P15 at the moment.
We're still waiting on 3 drivers yet to set a lap at the moment. Wexrow's currently on a lap. Silas just starting his. Fern's still in the pits on the medium. So I think because of what I'm witnessing at the moment. Oh, that's a big mount of the curb. You can see that one coming. And he's still actually on a valid lap at the moment, is M Racer. But yeah, looking to take that inside line sausage curb, saying, nope, you can't do that one. So he flies high and stays in P15. But you're absolutely right. He's currently in second place at the moment. 19 points separating him from Boots. But he's only 5 points in front of Noctis at the moment. And he's not having a great qualifying either. He's tucked in just behind him on the 8th row of the grid in P16.
Yeah, I was just second on board with Emirates at the moment. Let's just see what he can do coming through Ascari. He's probably navigated that one maybe a bit more calmly than he like, not taking any risks. This track is very tough to hook up a lap. You know, they've mentioned that the curbs are just brutal rounds here. And with just over 5 minutes left in the clock, it's important now for Emirates just to get a decent lap time on the board. He's very, very cautious in that final corner now. Is he maybe even backing out of it? Maybe it looks like it. And yeah, he peels off into the pit lane there. So with just under 5 minutes probably now left on the clock, Emirates, he's got a lot of work to do.
They absolutely mounted the curb going into the second chicane, so it's to be expected. Unfortunately, they were going to abandon that particular lap. He perhaps has got his ride height a little bit too low, which has caused the car to almost do a wheelie over the sausage curb. And not a big fan of the sausage curbs. We've obviously seen backs literally broken as a result of those sausage curbs. So we hopefully, fingers crossed, will see them removed at some point in the not too distant future. Purple second sector for Noctis though, and he is heading through Ascari, and he's absolutely crispy through there as he heads towards Parabolica. Noctis with that 121.0 is the only person within the 121, so obviously not a representative lap time of what he can do. The question is what can he really do as he goes through Parabolica? He's looking to try and get at least into the 1 minute 19s if he can. 1:19.9 would be sufficient for P6. We'll see how he does though. He'll come across the line, and it is a 1:19.9 exactly, and he gets P7.
Yeah, that was a lot of good guess there from you. I'd be happy with that much as in Noctis, however. Once again, for his standards, he'd probably maybe would be happier if he's a bit further up the grid, but he's as he straight lines turn 1 as well there, so he's I think he's maybe got urgency to try and get another lap, and maybe make it back to the pit lane in time. So yeah, a lot of work to do there for the McLaren.
He won't be happy with that one, I don't think, anyway. I think he needs just a little lesson in that this is not rallycross. It wasn't a joker lap on that occasion, taking the alternative route around the circuit. Either way, it is a creative interpretation of turn 1, rather the lack of a turn. Either way, he will, I think, be relatively disappointed by the looks of that behaviour. At P7, he can get a little bit better, but crucially, he is massively in front of the person directly in front of him, 5 points in the championship. Emirates down and now in P19. On the 10th row of the grid, so he really needs to pick up his A game. I know that qualifying has not been the best for him this season, as we just see Fern invalidate his out lap, so he's alright for now, but it looks like a lot of understeer actually for the Alpha. Emracer is in a bit of a predicament here because being on the 10th row of the grid, he is going to lose out on some big points because this is a track, despite it being so quick, is not going to be a very easy circuit to overtake. Of course, the major overtaking spots are usually going into Ascari, going into turn 1, and would you happen to believe that is in and out of DRS zones. So keep an eye on that one for the race. We do have 2 and a bit minutes left in qualifying though, and Scyther now taking the fastest lap of this race, really suggesting the track evolution at the moment is massive. Now 1:19.5 for him at the moment, and it's all going to be about who can push it to the absolute limit and save as much time as he possibly can in order to get that pole position.
Yeah, absolutely. Just look at Scyther at the moment. He's the first one out on track compared to the rest of his challengers out there, so he's kind of got the luxury of knowing that he's already in a very, very good spot. And also, I'm just going to mention, Joe, or your mic, there's a little bit of like static coming from it.
Oh, is there?
I don't know if there's. Yes. I thought we can sort that one.
Well, fingers crossed, that should be a bit better, I hope.
Yep, there we go. Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic.
No idea. You know what? I think I've got some kind of electrical thing in here. You know, I mean, I've got a lot of computer stuff, of course, otherwise I wouldn't be here. But yeah, clearly need to speak to an electrician about that. How unusual. Yeah, you're right though with Scyther though, because he has tried to improve, and he did get a purple first sector actually on this second attempt to get pole position. Is he going to improve even further? He might do. You know, 1:19.3 for the Alfa Romeo. What a lap time from Scyther. That will be his last run on this particular qualifying session in Italy, but there are plenty of drivers on outlaps here, and they are all going to be on a track that is evolving very quickly. How easy is it going to be to find 3/10 at a circuit like this with track evolution so well? I don't know, but there is a red Ferrari. I nearly said Red Bull, and I don't know how quickly I managed to get myself out of that hole. Of Mac just tucking in behind. He's getting a brilliant tow off of PSR boots at the moment, and that is only going to benefit him surely into turn 1, into turn 5, and then into turn 9. But we'll have to see, as he's just going around the corner now, and that looks like to me he's keeping as much distance as he can not to get the dirty air, but try and get the tow. Mac might be in a good position. Boots trying to improve, 1.5 tenths, and he's not going to improve doing that one though. Will Boots, the championship leader, definitely out of the running of getting any kind of pole position doing that, and I'm wondering if he's actually going to have enough time to have another go at a lap here.
Yeah, it's going to be a touch and go one set, and that's the very good one. Very good news if you're a Scyther fan. He's put the pressure on his opponents with an absolute blistering time at 19.3, and it looks like Finn is going to have to start another lap here, so he's got one more attempt to try and get something like this, and other than that, I think the rest of the guys around him are just about to start their lap now.
Just keeping a very firm eye on Emracer as well, of course. That's the guy in second place in the championship, looking to try and close down the gap on Boots, extend his lead on Noctis, P19 at the moment, as he takes the wider line through the second chicane, and very well taken actually from the current runner-up in the championship. Heading through the first Lesmo into Lesmo 2. He's not getting any tow here. Maybe if it's a slight one from a Red Bull directly in front of him, but I doubt that's going to help him that much. Mac retires. He retires in the pit lane. He's had enough of qualifying for a 120.1. It's a shame because he got a nice tow actually off of Boots. Scyther in the pits, of course, as we are now out of time in qualifying, so this is the last laps that people are going to be churning in here. Let's see what happens next then. So Boots has managed to get round and have another go at this one. We're going to follow SAV Legend as he goes wide, very wide indeed, through Parabolica. He'll come across the line. Can he try and get above P1? He cannot. He's down 1.5 tenths, and he'll finish no higher than P5 for him at the moment, as we've got a little bit of a battle happening towards those in P6 at the moment, and that's Noctis, who's lost it on the straight heading towards Parabolica. Hopefully it's not going to affect too many people. We'll have to hope. Anyway, we'll keep an eye out on that one, as Boots has not been able to improve his lap time, as he is invalidated as well. Lurch has invalidated his lap as well. Smokey's still on a lap though in P9, and he's looking to try and improve if he can on Noctis, and that could really affect the possibility of a good race here, because he's going to be slap bang in the middle, Will Noctis, of some intense battling, being on the 5th row of the grid. Let's see what happens. Smokey comes across the line. Will he punch Noctis to 9th? He will, by going to 8th. So Noctis is on the 5th row of the grid, which means he's right bang in the middle here. M Racer could only manage P16. Boots will be disappointed with P3, but he'll be happy that his nearest contenders are absolutely nowhere near his performance here tonight in Monza.
Yeah, tough one for Emirates. I kind of thought he'd have pulled something out of the bag, and then, but a 20.2 even for Emirates are definitely not the best lap from him. He's got a lot of work to do, especially around here at Monza. It's DRS trains galore, so yeah, he's got a lot of work to do, Emirates, if he wants to try and keep up the good point scoring form he's been on lately.
Well, championship leader will be both. I think it'll be a bittersweet sort of performance in that one for the number 28 Alpha Tower. He'll be happy that he's managed to get well away from his nearest competitor in the championship, but it is the American Scyther who's absolutely flying high in Italy here. The Superman pose for the Alfa Romeo will be happy with a 1:19.3, 3 tenths faster than the Irishman Finn in the Ferrari, of course, Ferrari's home Grand Prix. What a sight that would be if they end up taking the win tonight. It's 1:19.6 for him, 1:19.6 for Boots, of course, missing out just by a little bit under 400ths of a second with Caterpillar in 4th. Legend not able to capitalise on the end of part of the qualifying for P5. Of course, towards the back, of course, you've got Wexro down in P10, and then you've got the likes of M Racer down in P16, Noctis in P9, championship contenders well out of contention, and Fern never managed to set a lap time in the first place, and he's another driver we're going to be keeping an eye out on. He's a little bit out of position. This is not a circuit for easy overtaking. DRS is very much going to be needed, and a lot of drivers are going to have to do a lot of overtaking if they want to make this race work for them.
Yeah, definitely. I'd just like to point out Rev Caterpillar, great qualifying from him, kind of went under the radar in P4. The guy's only scored 8 points all season. I think he was actually really close last time you were here in Austria, getting a good result, but just didn't quite go his way. So maybe you're his good mascot, because second time you've turned up, second time he's turned up. So I'll be interested to see what Rev Caterpillar can do at the front of the grid, and it's a nice change to see him up there.
It's a cracking P4 for him as well, and of course we're wearing the Ukraine flag as well in big supports. First commentary stream that I have actually been a part of since the Russian invasion in Ukraine. Of course, my express sympathies go to all of the family, friends, and everyone involved currently in Ukraine. And of course, not wishing to make anything too political, but because of course this is a stream about escapism, about enjoying the racing, but it is a moment we do have to think about those in Ukraine, and hopefully, fingers crossed, everyone is going to be safe and well ASAP. This is an awful situation at the moment. I'm sure everyone on the grid, including yourself, Callum, is hoping for the best in Ukraine.
Yeah, definitely. I echo the words you said there. So obviously, as you mentioned, nice to see Rev Caterpillar repping that there. Hopefully, it maybe gives him a little bit of good luck, because as it kind of stands at the moment, he probably needs it.
Absolutely, indeed. So we're about 25 minutes into this stream. We're just waiting on the drivers to get themselves ready now and for this Italian Grand Prix in Monza. As we said, the American driver Scyther happy with P1. Finn down in P2 at Ferrari's home Grand Prix. He'll be happy with that one. Mac also repping the Ukraine flag in the other Ferrari down in P15 alongside the championship runner-up as it stands at the moment. M Racer, the German in the Williams, down in P16, electing to start on the mediums. No surprises there. To Greek men, finger Boy and NRX Chester down 17th and 18th place, and then Overkill and of course Fern in the other Alfa Romeo, not able to set a lap time. He also starts on the mediums, and there, no surprise there, everyone outside of the top 10 starting on the mediums, because the medium to soft strategy around here is extremely powerful because of the track evolution, especially at the current conditions. It's overcast, so if the overcast conditions maintain, well, the soft tyres are going to last longer, and of course, if the sunny conditions come out, the soft tyres towards the end of the race are going to be a lot faster than they would be during an overcast race. Looking forward to this one, Cal.
Yep, it's definitely going to be an interesting one. Peter Wexstrom's going to highlight down in P10. He's got quite a reputation for being very good in alternate strategy, but unfortunately for him, I think he's played the numbers slightly wrong there and found himself in that kind of dreaded position in P10. So for the first time in a long time, I'm going to see Wexstrom on the kind of normal strategy on the soft to medium side of the alternate. So yeah, I'm going to interested what his pace is like on those soft tyres, see if he can keep up with the guys at the front, but also the full mid pack. It's going to be a chaotic one going into turn 1, turn 2, heavy braking zones, and it'll always be chaos there.
So there we are, pit stop strategies predicted soft to mediums after the 10 laps, the 11 laps soft to mediums there as well. Of course, medium strategy will be going on a little bit longer, potentially looking at around about a 15 or a 16 lap stint for a 12 lap stint, a 12 to 11 lap stint to the end of the race. Once again, good evening everyone watching across the world. This is WOR, this is World Online Racing. Welcome to Monza for Xbox Tier 2, and it is myself, Jota, alongside the OG of Tier 2 here at WOR, Callum G. Nice to have you on board alongside me, Cal, for this one. Once again, we are looking forward to this, I think going to be quite an intense race here. We've got a load of drivers out of position. P2 in the championship, down in P16 overall after an unfortunate repeat of the poor qualifying that he's currently experiencing at the moment in Tier 2. And of course, as well, P3 Noctis right slap bang in the middle. He's in P9 on the 5th row of the grid, and that is going to make for a very interesting situation, of course, because how is he going to approach it? If you were in the situation, Cal, where Noctis is P3 in the championship, you're only 5 points behind your rival, who is well down the field, do you maintain your position, or do you go a little bit more aggressive, try and make those positions up early on the start, and try and inflict more damage upon the guy in front of you?
I don't know, that's why I'm not racing, unfortunately, but we're interested to see what he does here. But I think it's important to know that it's probably not worth risking everything around here, especially you're in a good position in the championship. You know, if you're in that top 5, you've got something to play for, and as much as it's hard to overtake around here, it's just important you stay in DRS, and it's probably not worth losing it over kind of silly fights at the start of the race. So yeah, it was interesting to see what take the drivers take to this, because I think it's probably not worth your while fighting really, really hard at the start of the race, just because I think the DRS is going to be so important to this race.
This is an Italian Alfa Romeo sandwich, I've just realised as well. Alfa Romeo for starting and then Alfa Romeo finishing right at the back as well in this Italian Grand Prix. So this is a very, very Italian situation happening right in front of us. I'm hoping that you're going to be enjoying this one alongside me, folks, because I think we're going to be in for a race of not just high attrition, but I think a race of high aggression. That's exactly what Monza brings, though, isn't it? It's a circuit of intensity, of speed, and nonetheless, of course, high DRS, low downforce, making for some very, very quick overtaking. Let's see what they do. 27 laps ahead of us, and the drivers are lining up on the grid. And with those drivers lined up, we're counting down the lights. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, and it's 5 lights. It's 5 lights, and they are a go. The drivers, here they are, and that is a jump start from the championship leader. PSR Boots will now have to serve a drive-through penalty, and that's an unfortunate scenario for him because he's going to fall all the way to the back. Scyther holding his own here from Finn, who's going down the inside line. He's going to have the outside line heading into turn 2, and he might have the traction as well, and there goes Finn leading the way in the Ferrari with Scyther, then Rev Caterpillar, Venom, Smokey, Legend, Lurch, Wextra and Noctis making up then the top 10, but of course the shock in the situation is the championship leader has jumped the start. Oh, that's one hell of a dive going off of the circuit to try and make that one work. Unfortunately, might mean he's going to hemorrhage positions. Here comes Venom, and here comes the Alpine of Caterpillar as well. Around the outside line tries the Alfa Romeo, but he's not going to make that one stick. He missed his braking point, tried to make the overtake, and he's lost 2 in the process.
Oh, what a chaotic start here in Monza. Maybe losing another one. Smokey all over the back of the Alfa Romeo now. Coming into a Scary, they go over it. Any sort of moves. The Alfa Romeo looks like he'll be able to move. The Mercedes like a little bit of a dummy there. But yeah, what a chaotic start. Boots a bit of an uncanny Ener's Legends goes off the track as well. It's all happening here in Tier 2. Wexro, can he capitalise? It looks like he can. But there you have it. What a lap, first lap that was.
Keeping an eye firm eye on Wexrow, then he's trying to close down that gap on Legend at the moment, but unfortunately Noctis is breathing down his neck, but Piccolo also looking to try and make the move. Stick! And there goes a spin, and that is the other Alpha Tauri of Wexrow. Unbelievable start for the Alpha Tauris. One jump starts and the other one spins, and now it's an Alpha Tauri sandwich, but though that boost is going to be falling down the standings when he has to take his drive-through penalty. What a start from Finn though. He gets up to P2 holding off the attack from Scyther. Venom up 3 positions in the Haas. What a drive at the moment for Venom, who is on apparently a strategy for going from softs to hards.
Oh, that's interesting to see that. Venom made a little bit of a mistake, by the way, going into turn 2 just on board with Noctix at the moment as well. Battle for P10, trying to make the most of those soft tyres from the Red Bull, but he's always very well missed his braking point there into the back of Silas. I know I've reset the track there from Silas as well. Don't want to show that one to the stewards, but yeah, a little bit messy there for the battle for P10.
And he's all the way down in P17 now as well, and he's trying to get close to Mac, but Mac just jumping ahead of him, and he's going to make that one stick no problem at all, as Sam actually looks like he's ghosted right through the Aston Martin as well. I don't know if he's got damage or not. Looks like he might have done after that particular incident. Either way, so situation report at the moment is that despite the fact he's got the drive-through penalty, Finn does have the 2.3 second gap, and there goes another spinner. I did say attrition would be a problem, and it is Venom who's lost it at Ascari, and he now falls all the way down to P18 and maybe 19 as well, but it's just a little bit too far back. His finger voice at 18 for him. Let's see what Boots does. He is in the pit lane and he serves his drive-through penalty, so Finn leads this race now from Caterpillar, from Scyther. Smokey up 4, Lurch up 2. Legend manages to gain the 1 position back off of Boots, but Boots will fall all the way down to the back of the grid as Rev Caterpillar is looking to try and defend from Scyther, but Scyther makes the move stick very nicely up that inside line and holds the position for P2.
Yeah, good stuff there from Scyther. Would really need to try and close the gap to Finn now, who's in a little bit of a league of their own. 2 seconds and only what is now the 3rd lap in this race. As I mentioned at the start, DRS is going to be so important, so it is crucial stuff now for Scyther and Rev Capital to work together to make sure they don't let Finn run away with this race.
Oh, I hope that wasn't foreshadowing when I said Finn here has got an opportunity. Here comes Rev Caterpillar. Very poor exit out of the second corner. Rev Caterpillar makes the most of it and gets right back in front of Scyther before they enter into the first Lesmo, into second Lesmo, and of course DRS is now available, and that will be open for Scyther, who's going to try and make the move stick again before they go into Ascari. He's going to make it the widest Alpine you've ever seen. Oh, here comes Smokey down the inside line. That's going to be a double overtake potentially, but Scyther's going to try and cover it, and he's going to try and hold on. Here comes the Alpine as well. Very well driven by these drivers to avoid any kind of collision. 3 wide going into Ascari. That is excellent work from these drivers. Here comes Lurch around the outside line though. He's going to get the toe of the Alpine, but chooses not to make any move on Smokey and holds on to P4. Smokey tried to make it work and he nearly did, but on the outside of Ascari it wasn't going to work. Here he comes then. Is he going to make the move on Rev Caterpillar? Looks like he's struggling on ERS management. Here he comes then down that inside line and he's going to try and hold on. Lurch also looking, he wants to get into the mix as well. DRS closes. Legend also in the mix as well as the Alpine just holds on. Switch back from Smokey, but he might not get the traction he needs, or will he? Rev Caterpillar though holding on for P3. Very close racing between those guys, and it's still not over because he's using overtake again, and he's going to try and put pressure on him going into the second chicane. This is not the typical overtaking scenario, and he chooses not to go for it, and it looks like it's going to be another DRS overtake potentially going into Ascari, but Rev Caterpillar, very good exit out of the second chicane as Louis has been relegated to P10 thanks to an overtake for Piccolo, now up 3 positions to 9th.
Absolutely chaotic racing there. I said they need to work together and done absolutely complete opposite for me enough a lap straight. These guys are all fighting, and once again it's allowed now Scyther to get a little bit of breathing space to the cars behind, and also Finn just going to maintain that gap at the front. So yeah, as I mentioned, really hard racing from the guys, and really fair race as well. Not any incidents to report there as well, so yeah, credit to all the drivers involved there.
I'll be perfectly honest, I was expecting a full-on collision going into Ascari. That's why I was almost screaming, because you're thinking 3 wide through there, how's that going to happen? As Mac has lost the car and he's actually retired on the circuit by the looks of things and brought out a full safety car, which is not entirely the nicest scenario. I don't know if his car is, if he's chosen to retire, but a lot of drivers all electing to pit now, and I think one driver is certainly going to take that opportunity. Surely he's going to be Boots. He's down in P19. Surely he's going to take the opportunity now to get on a set of medium tyres. There's a bunch of drivers all electing to pit, and the timing screens are all massive massively messed up, and now we've got collisions coming in here with Sav Legend, 5-second penalty with Noctis, sorry, and I believe that's the same in the other direction as well, and I think that's all for pit lane scenario as well, which is going to be utterly disappointing if that happens. Either way, those who are starting on the medium tyre, of course, still have to commit to their pit stop. They can't pit for softs now because the tyres will be well worn, perhaps even at puncture territory if they pit now. But take that out of the equation for a second. M-Racer, P2 now.
Yep, he's doing very, very well, but yeah, technically it's not really in that position. However, I'm surprised a few guys in the medium didn't just pit for the hard. We've seen a lot of guys who start doing the softs pit for the hard, so there's nothing stopping these guys in the mediums from doing the same. I think Shizufan as well, the reason he stayed out, I think he just missed the pit lane entrance, sorry, as the safety car came out, but also luckily for him he managed to get ahead of the safety car coming out the pit lane, so he still has to stick to the delta, so you probably, I'd imagine we'll see Shizufan come into the pit lane this lap as well for a set of hard tyres.
That hard tyres for Noctis as well, of course, down in P13. He's the one with the time penalty alongside Legend, actually. So there was a collision between the two of them, looks like going into the pit lane. Opportunity knocks, though, for these drivers that are on the hards. If they're towards the back, such as Venom, Silas and Sam, they could elect to come into the pits again at the end of this lap and go on to another set of mediums and potentially go to the end of the race, because safety car's going to be out until the end of lap 7. 20 laps on a set of mediums is not unfeasible. Yeah, it might be a bit worn, it might need to do a bit of tyre management, but Tier 2, let's be honest, Tier 2 drivers should be able to make the distance on a set of medium tyres for 20 laps around Italy. We'll have to see. So there we are, Finn coming in as you rightfully predicted. Looks like he missed the pit lane at the point of the safety car coming out. So it's the curse of being so far ahead of the pack, unfortunately for him. He's now down in P6. So would you believe it's the man who could not qualify for the life of him here at Italy, now leading the race. Yes, it's still not on net P1 at the moment, but he is in P1 alongside Louis Chasta in the Aston Martin Overkill, and then, of course, Fingerboy in 5th place. Finn is down in 6th, with Scyther in 7th, Caterpillar 8th, Smokey 9th, and Lurch rounding off the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, just put himself in a really good position now. Obviously, you know, he still has to hit lane, but he's still in that track position, and it's just really important for another maybe safety car. And he's in a good position, so he's also got the clean air, and that's an important thing. He's not going to get caught up in these midfield scraps, which these guys are going to get caught up in. Your Finns, your Scythers, they're 6th and 7th, are going to have to fight their way through these guys in the slightly older mediums. It's not going to be that much of a pace advantage either, so the guys that have pitted have still got a lot of work to do. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting dynamic that's put into this race.
Oh, I mean, I've always loved watching Tier 2 races. I mean, I did Tier 2 back in the old TSRL days. I've done various other Tier 2 events. And I think one thing that I'd like to speak about during the safety car period about Tier 2, actually, is there's this fight, isn't it, to try and get to Tier 1. Because Tier 1 is the tier where everyone wants to be, you know, because you're classified as the best, in the best 20 in a league. And these drivers are all fighting it out to try and get themselves into that position. But they've got that one hurdle. And Tier 2 is not a hurdle, it's a wall. It's a brick wall, because these drivers are all facing off for the same goal, trying to get in there and try and be an esports competitor, potentially get into the challenges if they can. And this is a really good proving ground for these drivers at a circuit like this, because it's not just always about the speed, it's about your mindset. What are you going to do in a situation like this? Are you going to try and see out on a set of hards, or are you going to pit and try and go on a set of medium tyres? And I could see a lot of these drivers going in for mediums, but they're not doing so. So they are electing potentially go to the end of the race on these hard tyres, whereas the medium tyre runners, Racer, Louis, Chasta, Overkill, Fingerboy, yes, they have to pit, but they probably could go onto a set of soft tyres here. So suddenly these top 5 drivers are serious underdogs in this race, unless some drivers decide to go for that 2-stop, or they hope another safety car comes out.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting as well, just these guys on the kind of the hard tyres as well, like how can they kind of match up against the mediums, because I'm surprised to see not as many guys going for the medium tyre. I thought that would have been a no-brainer to go in the mediums. So these guys like Rev Caterpillar, Smokey, Lurch are on the hard tyres, and they just playing the long game, and they're just going to hope the medium guys' tyres run out, because it looks like it's going to be quite a big pace advantage for the guys on the medium. So there's a big few laps for the guys on the hard tyres when the safety car comes in.
Expecting the safety car to be coming in at the end of this lap, so the drivers will be getting ready now. New feature that's coming. I won't call it a feature, I'd call it actually a disappointment, to be honest with you, with the latest update of the Codemasters F1 franchise, is that the pit limiter is back. So, sorry, the speed limiter is back, rather. So these drivers are, as soon as the safety car comes in, bang, like that, they're all now going to be limited with their pace, which is going to be a real hindrance towards tyre temperature management. So they've now got to manage how can they get the tyres warm, especially the rears? How can they get them warm and get them ready for a race? And this is what I'm worried about with the hard tyre runners, because they're going to find it especially difficult to keep those tyres warm during this phase of the Grand Prix. And at 95 degrees, let's say, guarantee by Parabolica it's about 80, and that is going to severely drop their mechanical grip. We'll see what happens anyway. Here comes around the final corner, M-Racer. Safety car is just about to enter into the pit lane now. As soon as you see that safety car sign in the top left flash, you'll know that it's in, and they're going in because they're away they're going, and across the start finishing line we go green again here at Monza, and M-Racer managing to get a really good jump, actually managing to get the jump quite well on Louis, and Chester, Louis and Overkill getting into the mix but not looking for any kinds of overtake. But Finn certainly is looking for a double, but it's not going to work that particular occasion because Scyther is just going to slide himself. That's poor. Straight through into an overtake. That was poor. I'm really sorry. To take the overtake on Finn after he makes an opportunistic move. Wasn't going to work. And now he's in the net lead of this race.
Yeah, that joke was a little bit of a stretch there, but listen, Scyther will be complaining. He's up into P6, he's making the track position there and probably doing the opposite, which he probably should have done at race start. No mistakes for Scyther. He capitalised on other people's mistakes, and now he's technically your net race leader.
They're taking a look at Smokey as well, who's trying to make an opportunistic move down the inside line of of Lesmo 1 into Lesmo 2, and they're still side by side with Rev Caterpillar, but the curb working massively against the Alpine, and the Mercedes making the move for P8 at the moment. And Rev Caterpillar, who was looking fairly strong at one point, is starting to struggle already on these hard tyres, wondering if he is an individual who is struggling with the management of the tyre temps. Lurch also in the mix as well, also on the hard tyre, bearing in mind, but keep an eye on that tyre temp situation as well, because it's going to be a lot more difficult, especially at this part, because it's overcast conditions, so the temperature on circuit is going to be a lot cooler. Keep an eye on Finn, by the way. Medium tyres for him, and he's really closing up now to Scyther at the moment, who's looking to try and make that re-overtake back on him after making the opportunistic move, but electing not to use his ERS. But you can see he's actually used quite a lot of his ERS on that first lap, has Finn, and he's used it and lost one position overall here, but he's going to go for the gap as Scyther just ever so slightly trying to get back into the gap that simply wasn't there, but he still holds on to P6 at the moment, as Fingerboy looking more and more likely he's going to get overtaken if he can't make ground at the moment on Overkill and Chester. Venom losing position to Sam, by the way, down in P16.
Yeah, interesting to see the hard tyres just are dropping off kind of to the mediums. There's just not enough pace in them. Smokey already a second back now to Finn on those fresh mediums. I think his saving grace could be the point that these guys on the fresh mediums are going to get ahead up the guys in the old mediums. It might just give these guys in the hards a little bit of a chance to get back, and I think DRS will be enabled to start the next lap. So yeah, Smokey's still got a little bit of time now to try and claw that gap back.
Here comes Scyther, then he's closing down the gap even further now, 3.5 tenths, and trying to make it down to 2.5 tenths, going now into Ascari. He's going to make it 1.5 tenths, and he keeps it steady. That back up to 2 tenths. That's a big wiggle going out the corner. That might bring Finn into the mix here, and he is looking for it. He saw the little flick of oversteer, and he's going to try and put Scyther under a little bit of pressure here. He closes the ERS line, but tries to go now down across there into Parabolica, and he's looking like he wants to try and stay out of the way. Drops down a gear to get the traction. DRS now enabled, but Scyther straight out of the corner is looking like he wants to put more pressure on Fingerboy than really try and defend here from Finn. Is he going to look for it? We'll have to see. He is close enough potentially to have a little look. He gets in the wing mirror but doesn't make that one work. Finn looked like he tried to dive for the gap, but Scyther returned to it. Could argue potentially moving in the braking zone. I'm not entirely sure. Either way, he closes down the gap to Fingerboy, and Finn loses a bucket load of time, potentially as a result of Scyther trying to return back into a space that wasn't there. He's trying to get in the wing mirror of Fingerboy, but it's not working. Fingerboy holding his own very nicely indeed for P5.
Lutz just making the move up into P10 as well, but it's just not over. Oh, a bit of contact between the two. It's a Red Bull versus
oh, he's in the wall.
You couldn't write that one, could you? The Mercedes versus the Red Bull, and the Red Bull's in the wall. So yeah, we've seen that far too many times in the last year and a bit. So yeah, unfortunate stuff there from SAV Legend.
It's not the first time we've seen a Mercedes and a Red Bull collide at Italy and Monza, is it? Let's be honest with you on that one. Of course, the big bonk on Lewis Hamilton's head as a result of the tyre. Thankfully, he was all right, of course. We'll keep an eye out on the performance then of Legend as he tries to get back into this race. Fingerboy still holding his own very nicely at the moment against Scyther, and that's obviously it's not the best scenario here for Scyther and Finn, because they are on on new medium tyres, but the longer that they're in the wake of these drivers that they thought they'd been able to get past quite early, the more that these tyres are going to degrade, of course, because they're in the dirty air. So also worth making note, of course, they were 3 laps behind the safety car, so the 10 lap on the mediums is a little bit of a A bit of an overstated age gap, and that's a mistake from Fingerboy, and that might bring Scyther into the mix. He's squeezing him. Look at Finn. Finn might be getting into the mix. He gets the move on Scyther. He's also going to get the move on Fingerboy here. You think down that inside line. He's on the curb. He's going to be on the grass if he's not careful. Keeps it steady indeed, and he's got the toe of Chasta in front as well. This is going to be tight, and he holds on to it. Does Finn, and Scyther trying to get past. There's a mistake for Overkill. He's now spun onto the Weetabix, and he's now out of the mix here. Here comes Scyther. Makes the move on Fingerboy. Fingerboy holding on for P6, but Scyther makes a mistake, but chooses not to go for the move because of a yellow flag. So Fingerboy holds on here, but Smokey trying to get into the mix as well on the hard tyres as well. An horrendous lag happening at the moment as well for Smokey, which is not going to help. And Rev Caterpillar also in the mix as well, potentially. That lag is really going to be affecting Dundascari if they go side by side. And Smokey holds on for P7, and that is going to be one to watch. If that Wi-Fi keeps jumping, it may involve, end up happening a massive accident. Keep an eye on that. Noctis, by the way, down in P9, gaining time, but with a time penalty.
Yeah, strange stuff there for Overkill when he spun it coming out of turn 4. He did the exact same thing going out of turn 1, and that's kind of why I winced at that time, because he kind of went sideways over the cup of turn 1 and turn 2, and he did the exact same thing again, so that's a strange one. Just looking on board with Smokey at the moment, on the back of Fingerboy, the battle for P6, his lag started to calm down, and that pace is looking pretty good as well. He's absolutely on fire at the moment as the guy on the hard, and he's up into P6.
Not what Fingerboy wanted at the moment. Overkill retires in the pit lane, and I think that is out of frustration for the situation at turn number 4 and turn number 5. Fingerboy then down to 7th place on old medium tyres. This is where he's going to start considering, should I consider potentially doing a little bit of an undercut, which is a bold call, but the only issue is, of course, his ERS management has, how do I put it politely, been poor. He's really low on ERS at the moment, and that Mercedes engine in the back of the Williams is going to make him hemorrhage time against others that have got plenty of ERS. Similar situation with Smokey, though he's got a little bit more here. He is trying to push to try and close down the gap to Scyther, who, remember, is on a one-step softer tyre, the medium tyre, and they are the same age. So if Smokey could try and keep up the pace with Scyther, Scyther's going to be questioning, oh, I've made a good call being on the mediums here.
Yeah, it's also important to mention we're just about just about on the halfway mark of this race, so it's not a long way to go. So these guys that are under this kind of 34% ERS mark, I've got a long way to go. It could be a long kind of final stint to the end of this race, because the ERS is super important around here. If you make a mistake, it's just good to have a little bit of bank to maybe help defend from the guy behind or help attack the guy in front. So yeah, it's going to be tricky to get stuff for those guys.
Finn back in the net lead one at the P1 rather at the moment, with the 3rd place as it stands, but on the fresh medium tyre. Of course, he is looking in a very good position here. He's got a little bit of pressure at the moment from Chasta, maybe even Scyther as well, but with that Chasta on the older medium tyre, putting a car between him and Scyther, he's not going to worry too much about that one. He could look after his medium tyres a bit well here and actually pull Chasta alongside him. As long as he stays behind, Finn will always have basically a driver behind him, putting extra damage to his tyres as a result of the toe of the car in front. So that's one to watch, I think. But towards the front, of course, we've still got 2 drivers yet to make their pit stop. It's Emracer and Louis having their own little race at the moment, you'd have to say, as Scyther is still trying to close down the gap, but managing his ERS not so effectively, but having to use overtakes. He wants to try and get as close as he can here to Chasta, and of course pull the gap on Smokey, who's on the hard tyre. A little bit of a poor Ascari there from Chasta, so he's opened the gap up here for Scyther in P5. He's trying to close down the gap, but he's using no overtake here. Chasta, again, not using overtake himself here, so he's not feeling under too much pressure. I'm wondering if he's actually going to try and defend it. We'll have to see. He's got DRS on Finn. But it looks to me here as if the 3rd sector has been very poor for Chasta. Into overtake, Scyther goes, and he's going to make a mincemeat of Chasta before they get anywhere near going here. And Chasta gets into the toe of Scyther and has DRS, of course, from Finn. And Finn is under a little bit of pressure now with that DRS, actually. And Finn is actually going to have to look over his shoulders a little bit here.
Yeah, just looking at Boots at the moment, up into P7, he's doing very, very well considering the kind of strange and bizarre first lap that he had by jumping the start and getting that drive-through penalty. So yeah, he's shown that the pace is there, and he's now got up into P7 on those slightly fresher mediums. So yeah, the AlphaTauri man is definitely someone to keep an eye out on as this race progresses.
Keeping an eye on the Alfa Romeo, then of course Scyther trying to close down the gap to Finn. Keep an eye on the championship leader as well. P7 now at the moment for him. He's in the AlphaTauri, obviously making that very poor decision to just drop the clutch before we got anywhere near the lights going out. So obviously it was a bit of a rookie error from the championship leader. He's in P7 at the moment on a fresh set of medium tyres. Actually doing quite well. He's trying to close down the gap to those like Scyther and Finn, and actually he's in a, as long as he makes the overtake on Smokey, he's actually in a prospective P3 at the moment. So he could actually be in a little bit of a dark horse position here, so we'll keep an eye on that one. And of course, if the safety car comes out, he's going to be in a very good position for a set potentially of soft tyres. We'll have to see. Either way, keep an eye out on Scyther then, as he is looking like he's going to try and make the move stick here. He's got DRS on Finn. Finn has no DRS. He might use the DRS to try and defend it, but it looks like it's going to be inevitable. Makes the dive down that inside line to try and defend it, but it's not going to work this time. And Scyther does manage to make the move stick. And now, how is Finn going to be able to get, and he's going to have to adjust here to dirty air. How quickly is he going to be able to do it is the question.
Yeah, it's going to be really important now for him to try and stay with him at least. Now just looking, boots in the back of Chasta. Smokey made his move up into P5. So these guys in the fresher tyre definitely starting to show their strengths now, and the pace gap is definitely starting to broaden.
Boots really needs to get this move done here, because if he gets in front of Smokey, he's actually tactically he's in a very good position here, because if the safety car doesn't come out, he's probably got P3 in the bag. But if the safety car does come out, he could go for a set of soft tyres, and he could actually go a little bit higher. We'll have to see as Legend does eventually leave the session. Wishing him well, and hopefully see him next time in the next WOR session. And would you believe the sun is starting to come out as well on circuit, and that is only going to help those on the softer compound of tyres for their lap times, but for those for the hard tyres, for the grip there, as that is a spin. And I'm trying to figure out who the spin was for there, because it was right in the middle of the grid, and it's an awful incident. It is for PSR Boots, the championship leader, and I completely missed that one. Looks like another rookie error.
Yeah, it was as simple as I just dropped it on the Scary. I was on board with him. That's the big gasp, but when you got a fright, as his car kind of pirouetted off into the wall, and you really rookie error for a guy who isn't a rookie. You know, he's top the championship for a reason. And yet again, another silly mistake for PSR Boots. Yeah,
apologies to everyone for missing that one, because usually I'm on the ball with that kind of thing, but you don't expect that kind of situation happen for a championship leader, really, dear. It's not been the best race here, or not the best qualifying, but certainly not the best race indeed for the Alpha Tauri. Now down at the back of the grid of those who are still racing, with just a little bit over 11 laps to go. Rev Caterpillar and Chasta battling really hard at the moment, actually heading into the second Lesmo, going side by side. This is going to be close, and Caterpillar makes an absolute beauty of an overtake around the outside. It goes a little bit wide, of course, but Chasta cutting the corner ever so slightly to avoid any kind of collision, so all in fair warn, I'd say. But here comes the Shizou Academy driver Sam, making the late call to go down the inside line. It's not going to be a double overtake, surely. He's got the one, he's not going to go for the two. He doesn't in the end, and the Academy driver for Shizou makes the move stick for the Haas team, and he tries to close down the gap, of course, on Rev Caterpillar as well. But Rev Caterpillar on the hard tyre as well. Actually, the hard tyre is looking, correct me if I'm wrong, Callum, but the hard tyre is looking actually a pretty sharp tyre for racing so far, which is not the usual thing you'd expect.
No, definitely. Just looking at Smokey, the man on the hard side, and quite well on curated, and making our move up into P4. So yeah, the hard's looking good, and they're only going to look better as Shizou Sam as well, making a move on the hard tyre, so maybe slightly contradicting their point there, as a hard tyre man of Rev Caterpillar loses a place.
Hard tyres looking great, but obviously not as great as medium tyres that are about as the same age. So, unfortunate timing there. Sorry about that one, Chester. Either way, scenario... sorry about that one, rather, Sam, shall we say. Either way, it is a scenario rather of Caterpillar. I will get there in the end, Cal. Sorry, mate. We'll keep an eye out then on the second... the little battle happening actually, in front of us in fourth place. Scyther in third and Finn in second place. Now, of course, M Racer still leads this race, and I think he's trying to hold out here for a potential safety car that he could have got actually from the incident with PSR Boots, but he's on a fresh set of soft tyres to the end of this race with no safety car called. So he is probably looking more likely he's going to be pitting at the end of this lap now for a set of soft tyres to the end of this race, which means Finn is going to take the lead of this race once again. But the safety car really has done him no good, because unfortunately for him, he's tucked in a little bit behind and he's lost a lot of time. He was about 2.5 seconds in front of Cypher. The gap is now only half a second, and with DRS available, this train is going to form, and it's going to become a race all the way to the end here with a bunch of drivers who, let's be honest, have got everything to play for.
Yeah, definitely. It's just interesting to see now that that's Emirates, so these guys can all know medium start to come into the pit lane and they're going to come out basically dead last. I think it'll be P14 or P13 for Emirates. So obviously he's going to get those soft tyres, but it's a hell of a gap to the leading pack. So yeah, it's a lot of work to do for these guys that have opted for the ultimate strategy.
Well, I know one big gainer from this one, of course, is going to be Finn. Finn down in the standings in the Ferrari on 31 points at the moment. He's actually behind Wexrow on 52. The gap, 54 points between him and the leader, so he's going to be cutting that one in half. But Boots getting the fastest lap of this race. But keep an eye out as well on Noctis. He's in P7 at the moment. He's going to be making, it's not many points, but it's going to be making massive gains on M Racer, that's for certain. He needs to find 5 points as it stands at the moment. He's going to get 6 if my memory serves me well. So he will jump up a place as it stands.
Yep, it definitely will look like that. Just try to see how everything's looking in the top 6. All in DRS of each other, so it is. I think you mentioned that earlier on. It's going to be a little bit of a DRS train to the end of the race. I think we're still going to have Louise or Lewis, however you're going to say the name. He's going to have to come into the pit lane, but other than that, I'll get coming into a top 4. A little bit of a DRS train for the lead. And I think on cue, the Red Bull is coming into the pits.
So Sam is pushing quite hard at the moment in the Haas, and he is doing an excellent job here. But I want to keep an eye on Smokey here because he's on a set of hard tyres. Now, these medium tyres have been going on now maybe around about, it's a bit of a late call to go down there. I was worried he was going to collide into the back of Saito, I think, was Smokey. The situation for Smokey is he's on a set of hard tyres. They'll go to the end, no problem at all. The medium tyres are going to start to struggle soon. I reckon around about the 16th lap, you're going to start to see these drivers really begin to struggle on those medium tyres. Meanwhile, Smokey's going to be okay here. So keep an eye on the next 3 or 4 laps, because if Smokey manages to hold on here to this leading pack, he's a serious dark horse in this race. Rev Caterpillar and, would you believe, Noctis also in the mix as well. Noctis, obviously, though, with a time penalty, which is not going to help his case. So really a good situation happening here as PSR Boots, the championship leader, has had enough. He has bailed from this race. He's called it quits, and he has retired in the pit lane. And that is it. It is done. So the points at the moment, M Racer, if he manages to somehow manage to get a win from P12 from now on, he could take the theoretical lead in the championship. Though I don't think, with that poor qualifying and unfortunately for him, a poor strategy call, it looks very much like that is not going to happen, and he's not going to capitalise on that. But you never know. Formula 1, everything happens, and it usually does.
Yeah, I think your main man's going to capitalise on this. It's going to be Cypher, the guy in P2. If he can get a win out of this in any shape or form, it'd take him to P2 in the championship, depending on other results. And only 2 points behind PS Abbots. And PS Abbots is really starting to kind of bottle this championship now. It was such a good start, 3 wins from 3. And this is now the 4th race in a row where he has not been in the top 3. So yeah, the form is just starting to slightly change for Boots.
Interesting then, keeping an eye on that fastest lap then, now taken, would you believe, by the guy in second place. Boots did have the fastest lap, and it's been taken over now by the guy in second place, so of course he will not score the point as it stands because he's down outside of the top 10. So Shizu Academy, Sam, 4th place at the moment, medium tyre, time penalty, was looking like he was getting fastest laps, especially an old set of medium tyres. He's now beginning to struggle, I think, because Rev Caterpillar is starting to breathe down his neck. Now Smokey, I believe, is just hanging fire here, and I'm wondering, I was going to say if he was actually trying to do a bit of ERS management, but he's decided to start pushing again on this straight. But the situation here is Scyther and Finn, I think, are very much aware that these medium tyres, actually, 7 laps, these tyres are going to start aging quite badly here. Noctis with another time penalty is not going to help him. These medium tyres are going to start aging pretty badly, and if we don't stop doing some racing here, we're at serious risk of getting overtaken by the hard. 7 laps to go. I don't think this race is clear-cut won yet by Finn or Scyther.
No, it definitely isn't. I would just kind of exclude it to these two as well. You know, Smoking the Harsh, he's looking feisty. He's not that great. He's only raced 2 races in this season so far, and that's been a 3rd and a 4th, a 5th even. So yeah, he's looking very quick. Scyther on the back of Finn there, just letting them know he's there. So yeah, interested to see how Scyther and Finn do. Also good to mention, Scyther 95% ERS, so the ERS advantage is definitely in the form of the Alpha Romeo at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, but he's not going to be able to use that ERS, of course, if he's got no grip to put it down onto the ground, and that is a potential scenario if, unfortunately, Scyther's boots on his car aren't going to grip onto the ground, and that is a serious possibility at 15 laps old. Of course, a couple of those laps were done behind the safety car, but it put it around about 16th or 17th lap. not including safety cars. That'll be around about lap 8, the 18 laps on the medium tyres. These tyres could seriously begin to switch off, and if that happens and they fall off that cliff, the hard tyres are just going to come sweeping up. And especially keep an eye out on the soft tyre runners as well, because towards the end of the race they could make some big grounds up if the medium tyre runners especially start really losing the pace, and the hard tyre runners start making some overtakes and then get out of the wake of those soft tyre runners. Keep an eye out there, of course, on the race for that battle for P1 at the moment, which is actually a little bit of a race between P1 and P6. Wexro on the medium tyres as well in the mix, as well as Rev Caterpillar. Sector 3 yellow flags wave for a spinning car, and I believe that is Venom again making a spin. He is now out of the top 10, and Racer now into the top 10 with that soft tyre. He makes another overtake then, and he's on a set of soft tyres, 2 laps old, and he's got an 8-second gap to Piccolo. Got some clean air here. Could be a little bit of a feisty end to the race for M Racer.
Yeah, definitely. Still got a lot of work to do. 7.7 seconds is the gap to get in P9 for him, so a lot of work to do. Just looking at turning our attention back for the front Scyther there on that lap was very, very close to the back of Finn, but actually opted to get rid of his DRS, not use the DRS, and I think he's pretty happy sitting behind Finn, because I think it just gives him the protection from Smokey behind. But I say that he's made a big mistake there.
Oh, that is a mistake indeed from Scyther. He's looking to try and keep it sticking. In fairness, Smokey chooses not to go for that particular battle. I think Scyther surely is going to be pushing overtake now, because he knows he's nearly out of the DRS territory here of Finn, and he's using that overtake. Look at the gap, 9.95 seconds, and he is actually trying to hold on to the ERS if he can, because he knows he'll have a massive advantage on the straight, so he's not going to try and risk it that badly, but he's made not a best attempt at Ascari either. And look at that, he's out of ERS, and he's using the ERS to try and get out of DRS. Sorry, he's going to use ERS to try and get back in. Here comes across the DRS line. He's not. Finn has managed to beat him, so now Scyther is at serious risk here from Smokey. It was a poor couple of corners here. Now the question is how is he going to push? Scyther comes across, and there it is, no DRS at all, so he's using all of that overtake. He's used half of it in just one corner to try and close down the gap to Finn. He knows he can't make another mistake like that again, otherwise he's going to be out of ERS, and his chances of winning this race are probably going to be slim to none.
Yeah, I just think unfortunately for him as well, it's just not going to get any easier. Those mediums are definitely going to be their last leg now coming to the end of this race, and I think as we mentioned, this is when the hards come in at their time now, these last 4 or 5 laps, when they just are the better tyre and Smokey. I know it's not easy, but he has to now try and make some progress. If he can get a move on Scyther, then the win is certainly on for him.
Let's keep an eye out then on Smokey as he then closes down the gap once again to Scyther, 0.4 seconds. Scyther actually really starting to struggle now to keep on the top of Finn here, so Finn pushing quite well. I'm wondering if it's because he's not really been in the dirty air of another driver. His tyres are just that little bit fresher, a little bit better. They are 1 lap younger as well, so potentially for Finn might be in a slightly more advantageous position here over Scyther, but and about 5 tenths, but a very good Ascari actually from Scyther, only losing the 1.5 tenths, but he'll push that back no problem at all. I'm looking at his ERS management, and he is trying to save it. I'm wondering if he's going to begin a bit of lifting and coasting as well. One person who really needs to consider that actually is Smokey, because he needs a lot of ERS here, because he's got a serious possibility of winning this race. But if he keeps doing that, using overtake out of corners on a long straight, he's not going to find himself a race winner.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be interested to see. Well, look, so just looking at M Racer, 4.5 seconds is the gap for the man in this soft. It was all looking so good for him, but just turned a little bit south when they came out the pit lane and they realised the mammoth task that he had on. But yeah, he's doing nicely down there in P10. I think that's probably the best he's getting.
Lurcher chooses then to pit, and he leaves the session as opposed to retiring, so and we're down to 13 drivers in this one. I did say it would be a race of high attrition, and that's exactly what has happened, as we've lost 7 drivers in this race, as we keep a very firm eye on that battle again towards the front. 3 laps to go in this race, and I think the question marks are going to start raising on who is going to blink first. Now Scyther nearly was the guy who blinked first. Smokey is trying to use what is left of his ERS. Scyther occasionally popping it into AI. Now we do know that popping it into AI does make your car somewhat faster on a straight line. Don't know whether that has been patched or fixed or not, but this is the 3rd time I think I've caught him in the stream popping into AI, and I'm hoping that is legitimate and not a source of trying to make an well, obviously gaining an advantage in an unfair way.
Yeah, they were actually ahead of that one, so you learn something new every day from my point of view, and if it is, I don't think it's something that's been brought up by WOR, so he's making the most of it, but it hasn't been something he's been doing too much. Just looking at him now, I don't think he's looking to make a move just yet. However, only 3 laps to go. It's starting to be becoming like now or never for the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, it certainly is. 2 laps to go then in this particular race. Of course, I'm not speaking on the behalf of WOR when I mention that particular situation. I'm just aware that that is a thing within this game. I don't know how, but it is. So bear that one in mind. So at the moment, either way, Scyther still in P2. And he's still under pressure from Smokey here, and he's going to be wondering when are my tyres going to fall off. They should be falling, and the question is when. Finn is in a more advantageous position, certainly with his tyres, because you can see just out of the corners alone, he's just got so much more grip. Sam starting to really struggle here, but because of the DRS train, it's formed at the moment. It's still a battle for P1 all the way down to P6 at the moment, and I'm wondering if I don't believe we're going to have a DRS train to the line. Surely not. It's going to be ultimately a very, very close competition now, because we're going to be approaching the penultimate lap of this race, and this is where we start to see tactics. Very poor Ascari from Scyther, but equally not so good from Smokey. But Smokey got a little bit of a better traction out of the corner and actually putting Scyther under some pressure here. Not using overtake though, so he's thinking about it now. DRS open. Is he going to get the better exit out of the Parabolica corner? You'll have to argue. They're about even Stevens at the moment. Scyther's going to surely push it into ERS. DRS open for both drivers. ERS is going to be used here for Smokey, but he has 0% ERS surely at the point of him trying to cross it. Scyther looks for the move, but stays behind. Smokey has used up all his ERS, and I'm wondering here if he has run out of any possibility of winning this race with ERS here.
Yeah, it's now really important for Smokey to save it. He's even using a little bit there coming through Cover Grande, but he just can't afford it. If he wants to launch an attack, he has to save it now and just rely on his pace to be good enough to get close enough to Scyther. Because Scyther, 76% ERS. I know he made a little mistake here and there in the last few laps, but so he's done very well to recover, and I think he could be a real favourite coming into this final lap, because he's got the ERS advantage, a big ERS advantage compared to Finn. And if he can just make sure he can stay close enough to this final sector and come in at the last lap, I think Scyther could be a real threat for this race.
Well, he's putting the pressure on now, using overtake just to get close enough to Finn. Finn's ERS management has not been as good as Scyther's here. Scyther already putting the pressure through Ascari. He's just going into his wing mirrors and saying, look, I've got this position. You know you're going to lose it. You're going to have to defend hard if you want to have any chance of trying to get this here. But what an excellent exit there from Smokey. You could be putting some pressure on Scyther here. He's using all up his ERS, but he's got like 4 or 5% now going into Parabolica. That is not going to help him at all. Look at this as he tries to get on here. Chasta with a 3-second time penalty as we now start the final lap of this race, and surely it's going to be all-out war here as Scyther gets closer and closer and closer. He goes down that inside line. Finn loses the position. Scyther takes the lead of this race on the final lap here. Smokey's going to want to look for it as well, as Finn has spun the car after, I believe, a collision there with Scyther, and that's put Smokey up into P2. Now we're wondering what's going to happen between them two if the stewarding panel gets into this one. Rev Caterpillar is also in the mix of getting a P3 here with Sam's time penalty. Scyther leads this race, but with that incident with Finn, it might not be his after the stewards have a look at it.
Yeah, not too sure what happened. Just from my point of view, it looks like he just locked her ears and he just went off onto the grass. Really bizarre incident. And you really have to feel for Finn. He's been leading this race for such a long time, and it came at the last lap and he made a mistake or maybe got caught up in an incident, and he found himself in P6. So yeah, really unfortunate stuff for the Ferrari.
He's using up all his ERS. If there wasn't any collision, I apologise, Scyther. In that one, you've obviously got the race victory. We'll have to see. He gets a corner cut, does Smokey, because he wants to try and get as close as he can to Scyther on the old medium tyre. He uses up ERS, but look, he's got 5, 4, 3. Look, Scyther has used up his ERS on that attack, but he has had none, has Smokey. Smokey could have got himself in this mix, but unfortunately, as a result of the lack of ERS management for him, it is going to be an Alfa Romeo that wins here at the Italian Grand Prix, and it is Italy who take a victory here tonight in the Alfa Romeo team, with Rev Caterpillar taking P3 and Wexro taking a very respectable P4. For Alpha Tauri, Piccolo in 6th, Sam in 7th, M Racer in the end finishing in 8th place, and actually finishes in front of Noctis, which means he extends his gap in 2nd place to him, and of course closes down the gap on the championship leader. But damage limitation is really something that maybe Boots was looking for. He couldn't do it, and he's got lucky.
Yeah, it definitely has. However, it just brings that midfield pack closer to this championship fight. And maybe look like a 5-car fight, it's maybe an 8-car fight after tonight's race, because maybe a few names that we don't normally see up there, probably other than Scyther, I think a lot of the top 5 are maybe not used to seeing. Maybe this high up, especially with Caterpillar, where we mentioned him before the race, and I mentioned him now, a great result for him, P3. He's more than doubled his points tally already, so yeah, his best finish of the season by a country mile, so really happy for the man in the LP.
We're looking forward to speak to the American Scyther as well as in the interview stage. I'll leave you to do all of the administration work, inviting and all that one, as we have a quick look at the final standings of that particular race, of course pending any stewarding inquiries that may occur, because there were a few incidents in that race, but it is the American driver who started on pole, finishes in the victory position for P1, and he will take 25 points. Smokey finishes in second, with Rev Caterpillar finishing in third place. Viva Ukraine indeed for that one. Wexro in fourth, Finn in fifth. Piccolo in sixth place, with Sam in seventh, M-Racer in eighth. Fern finishes in the end in ninth place from P20 on the grid. What a race indeed for Alfa Romeo. And 10th place, in the final point going to the Frenchman of Noctis, who loses that one position from where he qualified. Louis managed to get the fastest lap of the race, but he won't score the point as he's outside of the top 10. And of course, the biggest shock of his PSR Boots, the championship leader, out of the Italian Grand Prix. He scores nil points, but he just gets away with it. He stays in the lead of the championship. Very keen to have a word with some of the drivers actually at the end of that very, very high intense race, a race of high attrition as well in that one, as we hopefully will get to speak to the drivers in the interviews, in the driver interviews in that one. But Cal, I mean, it was a race at Italy that was of high attrition as predicted. It was intense, and we got a race victor on the final lap of this race decided.
Yeah, absolutely. I think normally in races like that, you kind of see it all build up. Nothing happens in the last lap, but it was good to see something happen tonight. Scyther, maybe slightly anticlimactically, not much of a fight from Finn. And obviously Finn, the mistake or whatever it was, bit of contact, maybe a mistake, sent him flying back to now what was P5. So yeah, you got to feel for Ferrari. He drove a really good race. And he's having a good season as well. If he won that race maybe for Finn, you could have been looking at a different story to the Scyther win this race, and maybe second the championship, you'd have been looking at Finn, third the championship. So yeah, it was really interesting, really fine margins, and Scyther was a man on top in the end.
Was indeed a very, very high intense, a high octane race. We are actually struggling getting people into the party, so we'll give it another couple of minutes before we abandon that idea and head on to the next event, of course. So Tier 2 is closing up big time. It's looking like it's going to be more and more an event and a season where anyone really could now win this one, with Boots making that mistake. He's out of this particular race. He takes 2 DNFs in a row as well, because he obviously DNF'd from Canada. We move on to Bahrain next week. If this continues, this trend continues, he's at serious risk of losing this championship.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's probably already at serious risk already, and I think maybe the frustrating thing from Boots's point of view is the pace is there. The last few races he's been up there. I think especially today I highlighted it. It's just maybe like these little fine things, like jumping the start. I mean, that's extremely silly. You don't even see that in open lobbies. So it's just silly mistakes like that I think Boots maybe just has to iron out. And if he gets rid of that, I think he'll be back on form and back on track to be a good favourite for this title.
Just having a quick look now what's happening in the Discord, and already clips are now coming in for incidents that occurs. So of course the stewards will be taking a look at that one. These results, of course, very much preliminarily. Keep an eye out, of course, on our regular social medias, everything from Twitch to YouTube, and of course to our Twitter. So it has been a very, very high octane race. I've enjoyed every minute alongside you with that one. Cal, thank you very much for your commentary alongside me, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again very soon, mate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, mate, and we'll see you guys hopefully very soon for another race in WOR. Take care, and we'll see you next time.